Oh no. All right, I'm great. Come with it right now. I don't know why. All right, turn it up a little. Let me load this mic for 1 second. Ready to go on? I'm gonna bring us in, talk a little bit, have a song ready, because then I'm gonna break my back. I'm gonna introduce some athletes. Bring us back. 20 seconds, and we're on. After the song, I'm gonna come back and introduce y'all. Then we can, all right? 10 seconds. And we're on. Hey, this is your boy Mark 5. You're tuned in to Sadior Presents Open Conversation. I know you're wondering where Simply D at, because I never bring us in. I'm by myself with my special guest and my special host. Ms. Darkshot couldn't make it today. She'll be back next week, God's will, when we discuss lung cancer with our guest, Tony. I always mess her name. She probably won't text me. But I appreciate everybody tuned in, listening to Sadior Presents Open Conversation on Heat 100 Radio. Ustream is up live. You can go to ustream.com, search Sadior, SADIORO, capital OC, like usual. Today is going to be an interesting show. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beautiful ladies in the building. We're going to discuss domestic violence awareness. If you want to chime in to the topic, the number is the same, 267-368-5328. I'm not by myself. I always got on my right side the engineer, Mr. Devine. I apologize. I always got him on my side holding down the board. And of course, we have the DJ Manny Strong Mix coming in within the hour. So make sure that you check that out. This is going to be interesting because I don't think I've been by myself as a host since we've been back on the radio as of September 3rd. So again, the phone lines are open. Well, when I say by myself, I mean my regular crew, my team. So we won't have the throwback moment, we won't have the dumb moment, and we're going to get into the topic probably for an hour and 45 minutes with a music break here and there. But I do have my special guest host right here on the side of me, Camila, which was here last. Yeah. No, you looked at me. I got nervous. I looked up. She was here last week when we discussed women, and I was going to say empowerment, women inspiring women last Thursday here on Heat 100 Radio. If you missed it, make sure you go to Ustream. No, go to YouTube and watch last week's show. Go to Ustream to watch tonight's show from 6 to 8 here on Heat 100 Radio. So, Camila, I'm not going to call you that. Okay. I'm going to call you Camilla, but it's pronounced Camila. How are you tonight? How are you tonight?
I'm fine. Hello, everyone.
So, looking forward to tonight's topic, because I know that this is a topic that you have been really deep into. Okay. I'm going to be switching back and forth because we got a full house, so we're sharing the mic. So if you can't hear me, I'm sure the engineer will jump on me. This is a topic that when we spoke prior to last Thursday's show that you wanted to come on and talk about, which thank goodness that you're able to join us tonight with the 4 beautiful women that I'm going to introduce after the quick music song, and we're going to get into it. We're not going to discuss news. I got a news story also. Yeah. We'll go in and out with the news, but I just really want to get into this topic because we have a full house. We have the author also in the building with the book called The Many Faces of Domestic Abuse. Simply D says hello also. So I'll be getting messages from Simply D and DJ Manny Strong. They'll be texting and calling in to give their feedback also. So back to what I was saying, I'm glad to have you here. After the song, I'm going to introduce our guests, and by 6:15, we're going to get right into the topic. Again, if you want to watch us behind the scene, log on to your ustream.com, search Sadior, that's Sadioroc, or you can call in at 267-368-5328. You can also follow Heat 100 Radio on all your social media sites, or you can follow me, Mark Sadior LLC, on Facebook. You can inbox me if you have any questions if you don't want to call in. And ask your question and we'll try to answer it. So we're going to take a quick break and come back so we can get right into the topic. And I appreciate y'all for tuning in and listening to Open Conversation here on Heat 100 Radio. We'll be right back. Yeah, because I don't usually start the show. It's like, yeah, it's like, you know, Tony usually started at dark side. Start the show. I had another show that was called OC2, which was hip hop. I started that show, but I know our listeners is more on my level, you know, so you gotta do work. Yeah, good evening. Can't be like, yeah, what's up, everybody? This is Mark. We great kick it, like, you know. And plus, I know a lot of people that I talk to on the listeners. We got a lot of people that's interested in getting involved with open conversation, which is a good thing. And I tag some people that I know that have been through domestic abuse. And I had to tag some people that I know that wasn't, because I didn't want to feel like I was tagging them like, yeah, I know you need to listen because you need to get away from it. So I said, let me tag some guys too. I was like, let me tag everybody. Yeah, so that way. Yeah, so I said, let me tag, look, people that I know. That way they be like, oh, he tagged him, so they don't feel like I'm pointing them out. So we're live on Ustream. You can't see me in the thing. We're live on Ustream because I know everybody watches this on YouTube. Another wave to the viewers. I think that when I'm in the room with heat, it lessens me. The pain area, because what happens is your body, like if your arm is in pain, all your body shoots it into the air. And that's why heat makes it hurt more. And all your body starts, like you ever get a pain that starts shooting down your arm, like wow, what the heck? That's because it grabs the attention of your body. Or hip. Yeah, the doctor had a young guy, he told him, I said, no doctor ever broke that down. He said, yeah, that's why when pain for ice on it, it's a pain. It's up your body. Sending, you know, wow, whatever, fighting sickness. So I was like, wow. Now in this room, it's warm. It's like my arm is starting to. That's the tendonitis. I used to have that. So what did I do have? No, because you know what? Well, when you talk, I adjust it. But I got it that way, so that way. But you know what? Because you got a microwave, she's sharing mine, so. No. You're good. Because I just move this up. Put up my anger. This picks up that. I'll get up in just a second, because I'm just going to do something. Once I introduce them, I'm going to, like, wait a second. I'm going to have y'all tell, you know, a small story about what we get to get. movement. 30 seconds. Listen for me, y'all. Tell me if you can hear everybody. So, 20 seconds. 10 seconds. Camera on. And you're back tuned in to Sadior Presents Open Conversation show here on Heat 100 Radio. I definitely want to tell everybody I appreciate them for listening in, for passing the word to check out the show tonight from 6 to 8. We're going to discuss domestic abuse with, I was going to say 7, with 5 of my special guests, and I have one of my special guests who checked out last week on our show, Women Inspiring Women, Camilla.
Hello, everyone.
So tonight, what I want to do, we're going to do the show a little different. I'm going to introduce the guests because they're here early. Usually our guests come in around 6:30, 6:45, and we're actually going to rock out with the topic early. So sitting next to Camilla is Miss Michelle. Put me first. Go ahead and say hi. You can hear her. Look.
Hi, everybody.
All right. And then next to Michelle, we have, I'm not going to mess this name up, Noor Nabala.
Hello, everyone.
Nabala. Can you break down what your name means?
Means messenger of God.
I know, but I like to make sure everybody else. And next to her, on the across from Michelle, is
Angel. Good evening, everyone.
you want to say real name?
Angelica Dorsey.
Angelita. That's nice. See, I knew Angel, but I wanted to say
Spanish, a little bit.
Spanish. Okay, and that's Spanish for little Angel. Wow, this show deep already. And next to her, we have the author, Miss
Holly Jenkins.
Holly Jenkins. And she's an author, and that's something that we want to discuss tonight also, is this book, The Many Faces of Domestic Abuse. So we have a full show. How should I say? The author actually did an interview, should I call it? As far as their interview as far as in the book. So y'all should get the book too. So that way you have to show y'all can understand why these ladies, as I'm gonna call them, these sisters, got together and came on the show tonight to discuss domestic abuse awareness, I should say, because we hope that everybody, if you're not aware of domestic abuse, that after the show, we bring some knowledge to the forefront for you to want to get involved with it. Even if you're not abused, I'm sure that the movement is looking for individuals to pass the word and knowledge of, what's going on with abuse. So, to start it off, I'm going to go back around the room. Ms. Holly, what made you write the book and get involved into the domestic abuse movement?
Well, yes, I guess I'm actually an author, so I've written several books. I have a series of books called The Many Faces of Life series, and I have a website where you can get the books from. And so the Many Faces of Life series is about every situation that I go through in life. Whatever I'm going through, I write about it. But I had no idea that I would be writing about domestic abuse. And so when I just got married, actually, in 2013, in September 20, I had no idea that my husband was going to be abusive. Not only was my husband abusive, but during the same time, I was dealing with my mom who was dying. So I was being abused, and my mother was dying at the same time. But it wasn't until after my mom passed that I began to open up my eyes. And I began to see that this man is actually really abusing me. And it never starts off with physical abuse, as you know. It always starts off with words. It always starts off with verbal abuse. So he verbally abused me for a very long time, and then the physical abuse was really not that long afterwards. But it wasn't until after I left finally, and I went to a shelter. I went to a women against abuse shelter. And I stayed there for 2 months, but it was during that time I began to write this book. So I started it there, but it wasn't until I left the shelter and I did live into my own place that I just began to feel like, you know what, I need some women add their stories to make it more real. So people can see it, the realness of it. They'll understand that it really is real. It really is happening to people everyday life. And so I put together this book. I interviewed these 7 women, including myself, and I put our stories in the book. We called them Living Faces of Abuse, domestic abuse, and I called us my sister's keeper.
So when was the book released?
Just
October 3rd.
yes.
This is,
Yeah.
so this is brand new.
Brand new, hot off the press.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I wish you much success. Anything, like I tell everybody, anything that we can do here at Open Conversation or the company Sadior, which is the company that's preparing our Open Conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out. Any promotions, anything you do, we'll try to definitely come out and support it. Okay, and next to you, we have
Angelita.
Lita. This is T. Lita. We have Miss Angelita. Same question. What made you get involved with the whole domestic abuse movement?
Well, I'm a survivor of domestic abuse. I was abused in every way, verbally, physically, sexually, emotionally, for years. My children witnessed the abuse for years. It was a very difficult time in my life, and I used to always question God. I know people say that I'm supposed to do it, but I did it often. Why am I going through this? And it took a long time, but then He made it clear to me that it's my purpose in life to try to help others who are going through what I'm going through. Didn't know how exactly I would be able to reach people. So I started using my Facebook page, and I still use it for domestic violence and just encouragement in general. This is October, this is Domestic Violence Month, so it's appropriate to talk about this. But I want to, 2 segments that I really want to reach, and that's the young girls out there, to help them to know the triggers, so that they'll get into the situation. Because once you get into it, it's very difficult to get out. It's even dangerous to get out. I unfortunately know a few sisters who didn't make it, and I almost didn't make it. Domestic violence is very serious, and that's one of the things I want to do is try to help the young ladies to realize the triggers before it's too late. The other one is the effects that it has on children, being that my children witness a lot of domestic violence. They get scarred just like the victim does. A lot of children are traumatized out there, and they grow up traumatized, and that's why the cycle never seems to end. So I really would like to reach the young ladies and to find a way to help the children.
Definitely. I appreciate that.
And one day I plan to open a transition center, not just a shelter, but a transformation center to bring the young ladies from not just being a survivor, but to be overcomer, to be victorious, and to be able to start their lives over.
I just want to real quick before I do this. I just want y'all to know that it's very difficult to do this show because I hear it. I have a sister, granddaughter, daughters, friends. I'm Michelle for years, and it's like last year, a year before, I was in power circle, and we talked about domestic violence. There was a lady that was talking, telling us her story. And me and my dad was sitting there, and we was like ready to look for the guy. It was just to that point because, because of me being in the entertainment business, I have a very creative mind. So when I hear stories, I'm picturing certain things, and it's just like, uncomfortable, like, man, here's this guy. So yeah, it's deep.
We did a conference and I was talking about it, but my brother was there and he hadn't heard about it. I hadn't shared it with my brothers yet.
Wow.
So my brother, one of my brothers found out at the conference that we did on October the 3rd. And it broke my heart because I didn't want to share it with him. Because I don't want my brothers to go to jail for killing him. I don't want him to get, try to come at my family. So you keep it. And that's what a lot of women do. We hold it because we're fearful for our families. And we just keep it to ourselves and we deal with it. Unfortunately.
So next we have Miss Nubala, right?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay.
So your story requires how you got involved with the next movement.
Well, my story happened early in my life, from my teen years up into my early 20s. And what made me decide to accept, my story to go into when Holly approached me about it was also I'm a retired police officer, so I went to homes seeing this stuff all the time. And I thought that if me sharing my story could help somebody else and to make people aware that domestic violence has many faces. It's not just, low income, poverty type people. You have doctors, lawyers, police officers, and judges and things are going through the same thing. So even though my story is many years long past, the effects, it still affects you at times. And me being a police officer, going into these places and seeing this, it was like I felt that I had to do something about it. So when she approached me about her book and knowing my story, I said, sure, if it'll help somebody, let me be that person. Let me be transparent enough to say, this is what happened, this is how it is, but you can still overcome and you can still lead a productive life even afterwards.
That's you just brought a week ahead. Y'all give me so much stuff and questions that I have, like you would saying that's all. Oh yeah. Oh wow. All right. Well, let's get the last introduction out, and then I'm gonna again introduce my special co-host, Miss Michelle. What brought you to the table? Which I'm not gonna lie. You told me your story earlier today. I was like, huh? I didn't know that. I just thought maybe got about because this was something that you just was passionate about. So I'm looking forward to hearing this. What made you come to the table to discuss the next activities?
So, yes, you're right, I did know. And so many people didn't know because I had hit my music started as a child. So I learned how to wear different masks to hide my pain. I go to school, as I grew up, I just learned how to mask it. So a lot of people didn't know because I was embarrassed. And so when I got out of my situation, I didn't want to tell my story. I wanted to keep those secrets to myself. They belong to me and they didn't share them with anybody. I wanted to keep it on the facade that everything was good that I had going on. But then I realized that I wasn't born out of the situation to keep it to myself. I needed to take my pain and help someone become victorious. So, because even when you get out, you're still hurting. And so you go on kind of feeling like it's your fault. You feel like it was something you did and you made these bad decisions, or even in raising children, you make these decisions that you think are right, but you're just repeating the cycle. My abuse was more emotional. It was a lot of physical, but the emotional part of it is what caused me to have rejection issues and abandonment issues and manipulation, intimidation. So those things, that emotional abuse is far worse than any like, how did you give me what's good? Those emotional scars will haunt you if you don't get the help that you need. So that's why I bring awareness. I got into advocating for domestic violence victims because I don't even consider myself just a survivor. I consider myself a conqueror of this. So I got into it so that I can help and to bring awareness, to teach women the warning signs. Because if you know the warning signs, then you can, it's more likely that you won't get into this situation. And to just teach them about self-worth, self-esteem. Because if you know who you are, you know that you don't deserve to be treated like that. We have to stop giving people permission to treat us bad. So that's where I am in this movement.
All right. I'm going to reintroduce my special co-host, Amelia. I think you told us your story, but today, tell us your story. What made you get into domestic abuse?
I just recently found out that I was a survivor. I just recently realized. I've helped many women. I had a women's group. I was a mental health therapist. Helped women, with their issues, but never thought about myself as being a survivor until someone brought it to my attention. A friend of mine, he has a Peace and Love organization. Yes. And he wrote something up on Facebook, and I had reached out to him and told him if he needed any help, that I would, be there to assist him if he needed. And then after talking to him for some time, he was like, "Sounds like you're a survivor." I was like, "I guess I am," And I don't understand why I didn't know I was a survivor, because I've been going through some type of abuse my entire life, like since I was a kid. I grew up in a house with a father who was a Vietnam vet and a drug addict. So, it was a lot of abuse in the house. It was a very dysfunctional household. And then as I got older, I was a teenage parent. As a result of being in that type of environment, when it came down to me choosing a man, it was basically sort of like my father. So that's all I knew. So I would go from relationship to relationship, dealing with men who were abusive. And I decided really that I needed to do something and maybe start on the down the road of helping other women and helping myself, healing myself, because I have two boys and I also have a grandson. So I realized that there's a cycle to it. And my son, for so many years, watched me going through my abuse. He watched me since I was like 18, like going through some form of abuse. And as a result, my son became an abuser. And my son had to do some time. And he's also now presently taking anger management classes, and he's getting counseling, and he's doing much better. But he gave me permission to use his story. I wanted to talk with him before I decided, speaking about him. And I told him what I was doing, and when I told him, he says, "Mom, you should tell them about me. Tell them what I've been going through, and what I'm doing now." And I said, "Thank you." I didn't even ask him. Really, I was going to break it to him that day, and he just came out and said it when I told him what I was doing. And he was, he's happy, he's proud of me. He's working on himself. He's work in progress, as we all are. I have a grandson now, so I don't want my grandson ending up to be an abuser. So I told him, I said, get yourself together. I'm working on myself. I said, we're going to work at this together. Yes. And I said, this is not going to keep continuing, all this, abuse in the family. Okay, yeah. So I thought it was important, it's important, you know, my family, you know, I feel like they're depending on me, you know? Because it's not, when I spoke out about it and I started, my family members started hearing about it. I have 3 brothers, 1 sister, you know, they started reaching out to me and said, oh, you know, I'm proud of you, you know. And oh, you know, yeah, we went through a lot, you know, because domestic abuse, it doesn't have to be per se a woman and a man. It's, you know, abuse in the household, domestic, you know. So a lot of people, when they hear domestic violence, they think of, you know, a man beating on a woman. But it can be a woman beating on a man.
Yes.
You know, a lot of women who went through abuse as a child, um, they're sometimes one of the first ones to pop a man upside their head, you know. If you know, so abuse in any kind of form is not appropriate, you know. Um, and I've been through, I would say, every form of abuse there is. So that's, in a nutshell, why I decided that I needed to start, you know, putting my story out there and helping. And also, I'm writing. I've always been a writer, and everyone would always say, "Oh, your writing is so sad," you know. And I would say, "Well, I'm writing about my life. I'm writing about," and I would write when I was going through things. And I said, "Well, you know, this is what's going on. This is what's went on. So I mean, I can't do anything else. So I can't give you but what I know." So yeah, presently I'm writing a play on something that I went through. One of the things that has happened in the past, and yeah, and I changed it up some, added some things to it, but yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's interesting because as I'm writing it, I'm reliving, yeah,
It's
reliving,
therapy.
yeah,
It's
and you gotta take a break, take a walk,
Yes.
go cry or whatever. So yeah,
You can't heal without going through the pain.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and so writing is an awesome way
yes,
to get through that pain and heal yourself.
yes,
I keep journals. My daughters keep journals. They're poets.
yeah,
Writers. However way you express it, you have to get it out. It's when you don't get it out that it becomes real. Probably get caught in depression, which I did at one point. Where you almost want to give up.
yes.
And if it wasn't for the fact that I had so many kids, I probably would have just ended it because I was.
Yeah, I recently asked my mother, because my mother was abused, something terrible. And I watched that, and I asked her, you know, would you like to come out and start speaking, you know, and let everyone know your story, you know, because she's still in pain. And she said, yeah. And a couple days later, she said, you know what, I don't want to do what you asked me to do. And I said, why? And she was like, I don't feel like reliving that. She said it was some painful years, and I just don't feel like doing it again. Yeah. Yeah, so I was like, wow. And I said, I guess when I hear people say, oh, you know, oh, you have courage, I look at it like, what? You know, but I guess you had to have courage, you know, to be able to open yourself up, you know, tell everybody what's been going on with you or whatever. So, yeah.
To piggyback off the, you said you were writing a play. To piggyback off of the fact that you said you were writing a play, it was a portion of some of my abuse that I reenacted in a play. And it was during that time where I felt that I was actually breaking through, you know, that silence. I was being freed because I felt like I was a prisoner to it. But at that point, when I did it and reenacted a certain portion of it in play, it was a release for me. So, you know, and I too am a writer. I've written a book because there was an emptiness from the lack of my birth father that I didn't even realize I had because he died before I was 2. But there was something that was missing that caused me to have to put it in a book to get through. So I had to interview so many people in my family because I kept feeling like something was missing, a part of my puzzle. And it was Holly that encouraged me to get it out. And so I wrote a book to get that out. So as much as I began to write poetry, I wrote the book, I did the play, I began to feel free enough to say, it's okay if I speak about this. If it's gonna help someone else, save them some grief and some heartache, let me be transparent. Let me say, this is real, it's okay. And people like us, are everyday people. But we live in these secrets, hiding away for fear of what people will think. But then there are people that are still suffering, so we had to say something.
So first, before we really get deep into it, I just want to salute each and every one of you for taking the time to come on and tell your story, and also for the things that you do outside of the show. I commend you. I mean, that's the best thing, I wish I could do more, which I'm hoping I can do more, let me put it that way. But I definitely just, like I was telling a lot of guests that come on the show, that we had someone that came on that survived cancer, three times or 5-time cancer survivor? 5-time cancer survivor. And like I told her, from my eyes, you're the hero, because you're talking about it and you're fighting and breaking down some of the things that you inspire other people that might have cancer. And the same goes for each and one of you. I just like for you to tell your story and to come to the forefront to tell your story is a very important thing to do, because like I'm sitting and I'm listening and I hear a lot of people say that people don't want to tell their story, they don't want to spread the word, and what that does is when I hear different stories like that people go through things, it inspires me to do more. But if you didn't tell your story, what do I have to get inspired by? I mean, of course, I wish nobody went through it, but for you to go through it and for you to tell your story and inspire people is definitely a great thing. We're going to get into, I sat and wrote notes about, as I was talking, I wrote my notes, and when we come back from a quick song break, we're going to get into it, which I'm going to ask, I can tell you, the different abuse, what do you call it? Different abuse, that's what I would like to talk about. Yeah, different components of abuse. So we're going to take a break and come back. You're tuned in to Sadior Presents Open Conversation here on Heat 100 Radio. We'll be right back.
So
Yeah, different components.
we also have this, we need to make sure we get this hold up yet.
Oh yeah,
Unless
definitely.
it's hot lines.
Matter of fact, let me see
Here,
that.
yeah, you can put this one up for example.
Definitely.
As well. This is
Got the
we're gonna
websites and all that stuff on there
leave
too?
some with you too.
Okay. Oh yeah, definitely.
So you know Rochelle Davis? You know Rochelle Davis, or you just know her brother?
I just know Herman.
Oh yeah,
I know his sister.
Uh-huh.
He told me about his sister.
We went to school together,
Okay.
and so we know the story behind
Yes,
Peace and Love. So,
Cincinnati
yeah.
Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had went a couple places with him, and I just started this month, the beginning of the month. Yeah, ironically, the beginning of the month. Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah. Yeah. But it's been yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Rochelle's sister was killed. That's why she
No, turn the music up just a little.
It's an awesome organization that
Yeah. I see their stickers around, like a piece and a heart, on bars and everything. And that's why I told him, I said, you know what? I see your stickers, your sweatshirts and everything, but I never knew the story behind it. And he was like, yeah. And he broke it down for me. I was like, wow. I never knew all that went with that, you know? Yeah.
we can have blue at one time.
Yeah. A lot of people, yeah, when they talk about anything, especially in the black community, and it's like, we want to talk about it.
And they said it a lot when we were growing up, like certain things were taboo to talk about. But when they were doing it, by not talking about it, you got people now who are drug addicts.
Yeah.
Yes, they don't know how to deal with what they kept a secret.
Yeah. And I think it all stemmed from slavery, you know,
Yeah.
it's all done, and we had to hush it, you know.
That would
We
be
need to break from that too.
We have
Like,
to.
I hear that a lot.
We have to.
And I hear it a lot with a lot of young black women saying that, but look, if I did it and I'm still part of that whole slavery thing, you can too.
absolutely.
I hear that so much. I mean, people pull from the president.
Yeah, we have to. We all have to do it. And so a number of people is holding them hostage.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And then also, you decide you want to start speaking out, your family was like, wait a minute. Like, you're talking about us. You're making us sometimes, it's not just your story, it's our family, It might be your mother, your father.
You're tuned in to Sadior Presents Open Conversations here on Heat 100 Radio. Today's topic, domestic violence awareness. If you just tuned in, give us a call, if I can find where the number at, 267-368-5328. We've been on the radio forever. Can't remember that now. Or you can watch behind the scenes on Ustream. It's ustream.com. Search Sadior, SADIOROC, capital OC for Open Conversation. Before we went to quick music break, I wanted to know the components, thanks Michelle, the components of domestic violence, because everybody, like you said, focuses on the physical abuse. When I think the second one they would focus on is the mental. Yeah, see, there's more. So, Doug, I mean, it's a floor open. Just give me some.
You have sexual, financial. A lot of people, if you're, first let me say, it's also known as intimate partner abuse as well, because we've gotten away from it just being husband-wife. That's what everybody was associated with, but we know that we have so many other different aspects of relationships now. So it's intimate partner. So if your intimate partner or your husband, whomever it is that's abusing you, is withholding money or controlling all the money, that's a form of abuse. If they are controlling how you are on your computer, your text messaging, maybe they're texting you, 50 times a day, and you have to answer those text messages, or, and I know some women, they say, oh, he really cares about me, he just wants to know where I am all the time, he just misses me so much. No, that's a form of abuse.
Yes,
He should not be doing that, yes. He should not be showing up at your job unannounced. He should not be just, if you've asked him to take it a little slow or something, and then he starts sending you roses to your job. It's a little bit of intimidation, and stalking, and some other things. It's abuse, because you don't want to go there right now, and you've asked him to slow down. But we don't look at those warning signs. Those are warning signs. Does he get very jealous when someone is looking at you of the opposite sex? May go to a restaurant or something, and he may want, well, why did the waiter look at you like that? Why did he wait on you like that? So those different warning signs that we don't look at. Again, I said sexual, I think, psychological. There's so many different things, even things that they haven't even put a name on it yet, but when you're in it, and you get that little red flag, women, we get that intuition in our little belly. We know something just isn't right, but for lack of not wanting to be rejected or not wanting to be without a mate, we allow some things. We just let it slide. But you have to look at those red flags, and you need to make some good decisions. And again, that will go back to your self-worth and your self-esteem.
Absolutely. Can I just say that, this whole thing of abuse, it starts way back. Just like you were saying that in your childhood. Some of us grow up being called names by our own family members.
Absolutely.
That's
I
very
know,
true.
yes, I've had that happen. And so if you grow up and you're being called names and you're being beat down as a kid, when you get older and you begin to accept certain men in your life, and they begin to do those things slowly, guess what? We're going to think it's normal.
Yes, you
And it's not normal. And even though now I was 50 years old when I got married to my husband, and I'm old enough to know better. I was a police officer for, a long time. But these things happen subtly.
Yes.
And then it kind of like slide on in there, and you're like, okay, well, you let him get away with that one. Maybe he had a bad day or something, so it slipped out of his mouth. But then it just continues and continues. And so if you're not paying attention, you really can miss the red flags. You really can miss the signs because they are so very subtle. I would have never thought, and I was a very stern woman, and still am. I would have never thought that I would have been in an abusive relationship. And to find myself in one, you go through a lot of emotional, it does a lot of emotional damage to you to even accept it.
Right. Just anybody else want to talk on the different components?
We named all the components, but on the psychological tip, they can make you feel like it's your fault. They can make you feel like you need to do better. I was young when I got started in my abuse, and I used to always think it was my fault. I used to always try to do better. To this day, I'm kind of a perfectionist because I have to strive to make sure everything is perfect because that's the way you had to live. You had to live on eggshells, and you had to live making sure that everything is perfect. I served dinner to him one day, and it wasn't hot enough, so he stabbed me in the face with a fork. And I was saying, oh, I should have made it hotter. It's that's a psychological abuse because you really believe that's your fault, and you believe that maybe you deserve it because you already have that low self-esteem. I believe that a lot of the abusers look for women, young women who have low self-esteem. Yes. They look for them because that's a target. They don't like the strong ones.
No.
They don't like strong-willed women. They like the young little girls who who have low self-esteem and don't believe that they're pretty or so they can tell them you're ugly and you believe it. So that psychological abuse and that verbal abuse is just as painful as physical abuse. And sexual abuse, even though you're in a relationship and you call him your boyfriend or your husband, if you said no, then that was no, and he had no right to continue to have sex. That was rape. Straight out. I was on the train the other day, and these two young girls was on the train, and the train stopped. You know how it does, it just stops. And you're like, okay, here we go. How long we gonna be here? And I watched them, and they weren't even together, but they started talking to each other because they were both doing the same thing. Oh, the train broke down, I'm gonna be a little late. I know it's not my fault, I'm gonna be there. Because you feel you need to explain.
Right.
Because it's your fault, the train stopped, and you're going to be 5 minutes late.
Right.
And you start panicking, and it's like, I gotta get home because he gonna have a fit. That's real.
Yes. I recall being in a relationship like that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's one of my son's fathers, and he was a little older than me, and I started developing anxiety attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I thought I was having a heart attack, and I actually went to the ER because my heart was like, and I was feeling pains and everything. Because every time I would go out, it was like I was like on eggshells. Like I had to be back by a certain time. Like if I took too long, it's like I was gonna be questioned. And he didn't really hit me as much. Like he would like Well, he would do some things like grab my cheeks and squeeze them all the way into my teeth, like so the inside of my mouth would be cut. And don't think I just sat there. I tried to get them all, but he overpowered me. But
And people always think you just sit there and
no,
you
you don't.
don't just sit there and take it.
Yeah.
You do like that, but then again, these are men.
Exactly.
So they're gonna overpower you.
Exactly. Yeah. So I recall. Yeah. And it's like you're nervous all the time.
All the time. And I still jump.
Yeah.
I'm still a jumpy person. I could be at work and my coworkers and stuff, they'll come up and I didn't know they was there and I'll jump.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay.
Or someone goes to reach for something and you're like,
Yeah.
they're like, what's wrong with you?
Well, my thing is, if someone is walking behind me, I cannot anymore because he would come up behind me
Yeah.
and he would grab me by my hair and pull me. So now when I'm walking down the street, I cannot stand for someone to be behind me. So these are long-lasting effects that I'll have on this for a long, very long time.
I can still move throughout my house without even being heard. Because it could take minutes. You're very quiet, and I'm in the house, and sometimes people are like, I didn't even know you were in here. I didn't even know you were moving around because I'm so quiet. Because those things follow you. Because if you made too much noise and you woke them up, it would be a situation. So those things do last.
Yeah, stuff like that with me started when I was a kid. It's like the smallest little thing, like you spill some water. It's a big deal to do. Like you're gonna get a beating. You're on punishment. You didn't spill some water. So it's like to this day, like if I do, I'm like, oh my god, and everybody's like, oh, it's no big deal. We can just wipe it up. I recall being somewhere recently and something like it was like chips or something all fell out of my hand. I was like, ah! Well, everybody's looking like, wait a minute, like you just clean it up, like I'm like, ah! Like all screaming and everything, like, and my boyfriend looking at me like, it's not that serious. It's like a little embarrassing. Like, what's wrong with you? But when I was a child, it was a big deal. You spill something, you do anything wrong, And my name is Camila. It means perfect one. So it's like, I guess I gotta be perfect all the time. It was crazy. So yeah, it goes with you. It sticks with you throughout your life, and I'm thinking like it might be with me for my entire life. So hopefully,
And feeding off of what you just said about it goes with you. DJ Manny Strong texted me and he said that he dealt with a woman that was abused prior to their relationship, and it affected their relationship.
It definitely does.
So when men abuse, but real men, I should say, it affects us because it breaks down the woman as far as who they really are because of the abuse that they went through.
Absolutely.
So.
And I could say that after going through all that, I've told myself I'm not ever. And so I will like, if I even think that you're about to treat me in a way that's not to my worthiness or whatever, I'm gonna snap on you first. I'm not a violent person, but I will let you know I don't have to put up with this, and I'm not. Okay.
And off of what you just said, a friend of mine that I knew since I was little, she always told me, and she told me this matter of fact last year, always know your worth.
Absolutely.
Because when you know your worth as a man or as a woman, you don't settle for anything less.
Absolutely. Settle, that's the right word.
Because when you settle for things, you gotta bring yourself down to people level.
Yes.
It's not who you are. I mean, we're supposed to uplift everybody. And even in relationships, if you're dating somebody that's not on your level, they're not willing to at least work towards better, then why even bother to waste the time? Because that means you got to downgrade. We all supposed to upgrade each other.
I like that.
So that's one thing. But real quick, if you want to chime in, 267-368-5328. If you want to call the station, that's the number. Check us out on Ustream.com. Search Sadior OC. Go ahead, what you saying?
I was just going to say, I'm glad you said something about settling to my young women out there, and even the men. Don't settle. I'm one of them people that made that mistake low self-esteem helps you to do that. But don't settle. You deserve better than what you think you deserve. So never ever settle. You're kings and queens, and you deserve to be treated as such. And if they can't do that, then they're not worth your time. So
I mean, you're supposed to. I mean, from my point of view, when you date each other, you're supposed to also treat that person like like great. Especially when, I mean, speaking from a man's point of view, I still open the door for my wife. And it upsets me sometimes. I might park with the passenger door near the house. I mean, on the outside, and she run around and she open the door, and I'm like, I feel bad about that. But that's just me. I mean, I'm not a perfect man. Everybody has flaws, but it's like certain things, that you learn from. And I mean, y'all coming on the station talking about this gives people younger generation or older generation the opportunity to learn from your experiences. And to know that, like you said, you don't have to settle for the abuse or, the whole way to be treated, the way you shouldn't be treated. And something that you said, somebody said, I was listening to that, for the train stop, matter of fact, and they called nervous, and it makes me upset because if my mother or wife or daughter is running late, I want them to call me, but it's like a total different reason why.
Yes.
Because if you come in the house at 7 o'clock and all of a sudden you're not, it's 7:30, you're not in. It's a worry type of thing, not a what you doing or what was you doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part that makes me upset because it makes it hard for us. Like I might come off more so worried, and you've been through a situation like that. You came in late, and that person prior to me came off abusive.
But I'm sure that she would be able to tell the difference.
I was going to say,
Right.
it's a
You can't say
different level of caring.
Yes.
Right.
With an abuser, it's all about power and control.
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll know
And you
it.
know when they want that power and control because they're going to be snapping at you, whereas you're like worried. You're like sick with worry, so they know. Oh, wait a minute, the train stopped. Let me call my husband because I know he's going to be worried sick about me. So it's a whole different type of feeling that she would get on the train, and the call would have went so differently.
Right. And that leads me into my next thing, red flags. Give me some example of red flags. So that way if a person is going through it and they like, well, I didn't know. Which I think a lot of people know, they just don't want to know.
No, but I don't think I knew.
Right.
Because like I said, my mind was clouded, my mom was dying, I would take care of my mom for 12 hours a day, then I would come home and be a wife.
Right.
So I really didn't understand, or I really didn't know that, his 50 texts a day.
Right. Well, let me change that around. I don't want people to think that that's what I mean. When I say that, I'm saying if a person date a person and you heard that this person beat that person prior to in the neighborhood, like, oh, he be smacking women, this and that. Wouldn't you like, all right, let me pay attention to this person's movement so I can see if this is, because you can't go by what everybody says because people sometimes, but if somebody makes you aware of a person's tendencies, shouldn't you pay attention to it and not be blind, like, oh, I'm not, I ain't gonna listen.
And you should, and with my husband, I'm telling you, his anger, he had some flare-ups.
Right.
Like even in the beginning, like I could look back on it now and I could see I should have not married him.
Right.
He would have these bursts of anger, and that was a red flag for me. But I didn't pay attention to it.
But also, you had said something that made me think of something. I can't think of something.
Well, I just want to say that's why we do awareness, and the awareness has to go way past the month of October. The reason why we do the awareness is because you need to know warning signs. It's so important to know warning signs because you will just ignore it if you don't know. Some people don't know they're in a domestic violence situation because they're not being hit. And so that's why we want to teach so many different things to women. We are going to be going into the schools. We have already had a meeting. We're going to be going into the schools to talk to the young people because the colleges, all of these things are really happening, but they're even starting younger. These young people are dating. They're dating young. And they're being abused by these little boys because the little boy is seeing it at home. And so he comes to school and he now abuses this little girl. So we want to bring awareness because again, it goes back to the self-worth, it goes back to the self-esteem. If we teach that when they're young, then they won't get into these situations where they become women.
But then some women or some young girls think that they can change them.
Yeah.
You think you can change? I used to think I could change mine. Okay, well, he's been through some things, but if I show him enough love, if I show him, another way of life, I can change him.
One thing I
Please
wanted to-
know that you can't change anybody that don't want to be changed.
That's right.
That's true.
I just that's something that needs to be out there. You cannot change anyone who do not want to be changed.
And that's what I was saying, as far as dropping back down to somebody's level. Like if you're moving towards starting a business and trying to make something of yourself, and that person's sitting on a couch or not trying to do anything, then that's a sign right there that there's going to be some issues in the long run. I mean, it's one of the things. I don't want to jump off this topic. I'm gonna let you go, because I want to add something that. And then also, I see down there.
I'm
I'm trying to get everybody.
Yeah, but
I want everybody.
I want to hear too.
Yeah, I want
I'm
everybody
patient.
to chime in because
I'll be here.
different opinions matter.
That's
I mean,
Yeah.
'cause you might say something that I never thought about. So Camilla, and then
Well, one thing I thought about, and I was thinking about lately, because in graduate school I did my dissertation on gay and lesbian adolescents and self-esteem issues. So and this was years ago. So, and everyone was looking at me, why are you doing that? And I was like, nah, I'm not gay. But my younger brother, he's homosexual. So this thing in my head, I know when I was doing counseling, there was a number of young women that were sent to me to get counseling because they had anger issues and they were abusing their lovers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So in the gay community, they don't talk about it, but there's a lot of abuse going on, and there's a lot of violence. When I would go to the centers and everything, it's like even after every party, they will all fight. You knew that every party it was going to be a fight at the end. Like it's like a lot of violence. So so you're gonna be hearing about that probably a lot soon because it's becoming mainstream.
I work at the Drexel School of Public Health, so we do a lot with they're doing a study now with the young LGBT community.
Yeah, it's like big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might be bigger than in a heterosexual community. It's like it's major.
And they have no place to go. That's their complaint. They have
Well, and they use that against one another. That's how they use it. I'm going to tell everybody. Because some people are not out of the closet yet.
Right.
So I'm going to abuse you mentally and emotionally because if you don't do what I say, I'm going to tell your job, I'm going to tell your church, I'm going to tell your family, your friends. That's how they abuse. We deal a lot on the hotline with call-ins because they think that they don't have anywhere to go, and it is a little difficult, but we know that things are changing in the world.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, it is.
she got twice. I see you facing
I just want to get back to some of the early signs. I was 13. This was my first everything, and one of the early signs that I did see, I just thought it was kind of normal because I didn't feel like I was getting what I needed at home, the accolades, the attention, or, I just felt like what a lot of us call the black sheep kind of thing. And even if, my siblings or, didn't think that way, they saw me in a different light. I didn't see myself, or I didn't see my own self, and, the way they did. And my situation turned out to be like Ike and Tina Turner, because I was an up-and-coming singer. I had a contract. He had a contract. Different contracts. But needless to say that it was one of the early signs was he wanted that control. It was like, we're going to do the song, we're going to do it, we're going to do this at night. there's no sleep, no, we gotta get this in, but even earlier than that, he isolated. He made me feel as though I was the most important thing in the world, and at home I didn't feel important. So of course, oh, I'm important. I'm somebody cares, somebody's noticing. And he always told me how intelligent I was and beautiful. And so he knew the things to say because he saw that I didn't see that in my own self. I didn't value my own self in that same way. So that was some of the early warning signs that I really didn't see. I just was so grateful that somebody saw me, in a different light. So I fell right into that trap. But I mean, the first 2 years were great until that baby came. And then it was like, what about me? What about me? What about me? And I'm like, gotta take time out for the baby. So some of those early warning signs are there, but when you're dealing with a person that is longing for something and that somebody comes along and gives them and fills that little void for that moment, they become your world. It's like they become your world, and you just suck up and soak up into anything they say and do. And before you know it, they're isolating you from your family, your friends, and their words are, they don't care about you. They do you see anybody calling you? See anybody visiting you? It was psychologically, they were setting the stage. And before you know it, once that first hit came, at that point, then I became ashamed because my dad, the stepfather that raised me, said, "No go. That's not how you know you'll get in a relationship with somebody do this to you." But needless to say, because I was ashamed, I hid it. I stayed in the house with black eyes. I buried 2 daughters. I had a lot of different issues, and I hid it for years.
So let me ask you a question. This question is for you and Ms. Holly, because I know that you dealt with the police department aspect of things. How many times have you visited the same house about domestic violence? Like, you can give a percentage, like, because I know some people that's getting abused, they call the police, you go out there, they don't leave, and then you're going right back to the house probably a week or 2 later. Like, does that take place a lot?
Yeah, I had one house that I went to sometimes twice a day, and I would plead with this woman. And on this one particular day, one particular week, I had been going there maybe 6 times that week. And I think on that 6th time, I said to her, I said, "Please, just come on, let's just go." I said, "Because this time, you may not make it this time." I mean, this man was literally beating her. And she was saying, "Well, he won't do that. He's tired now. He's gonna go to sleep. He's not gonna do it again." And I begged and begged her, and she would not leave. So I got off work, and I called back to my district. I don't even remember why I called, but when I called back, I found out that day he did kill her after I left.
Mm.
And to this day, I kept saying, "Wow, maybe I could have said something different. But
You did all you could.
I did all that I could. I mean, I literally, on duty, cried with this woman because it broke my heart that she truly believed that if he could just get to sleep, or if she just gave him what he wanted, or let him go, because sometimes he beat her because she didn't want him to go out and he wanted to go out. So he knocked her around and left. But I said one day, I just felt overwhelmed that particular day, like, you have to do this today. And he broke her neck.
See, I was just the opposite. I mean, I didn't find myself getting to the attachment with that. I actually got irritated by it because you would go to the house over and over again and you would see the same situation over and over again.
Right.
And the woman would just make excuses. And when you did finally arrest the husband or the boyfriend or the spouse or whatever he was, and you go to court, the woman didn't show up. So it just got to be irritating to me.
Right. It sounded irritating, just when you say this, it was like.
I was very irritated by it, and I knew that the outcome was not gonna be a good one eventually.
Right.
And I'm thankful that I never knew what the outcome was, because it probably would have, bothered me, but.
Well, I wanna say as somebody who used to call the police, but then mind you, this was many years ago, this was like the 80s. I used to call the police and they used to come and they used to tell the guy to go take a walk. I used to call the police and they would see that I was bloody and they would just tell him to go take a walk.
Definitely.
They would, I would say, one time, guy said, well, go get a restraining order. I said, well, how do I do that? He said, well, you have to go downtown to such a place. I said, well, how do I get there? They were very unhelpful. So I'm glad that it's changed now,
It
but
has changed, yes.
but it was very unhelpful, and usually it just made him madder. So after they left, then you get in trouble again because somebody told you. It wasn't even you that called. Somebody else called because they were tired of hearing you scream.
So
But you got in trouble because they called.
Well, I just want to, I'm sorry. I wanted to say on piggyback on all of you, the woman, because, I've been in training, and the woman, unfortunately, people don't see this part, but she wants help, but she's also so afraid.
Yeah.
She's so afraid, not only of just this man, but she's afraid of a new life. She's afraid of being out there not knowing how she's going to feed her children. Because right now, the house is warm, they have food, they have shelter, all of those different things. So I think that we have to remember, too, that this woman is afraid. She's actually in grief. She's actually, mourning like, oh, God, if I leave, I'm going to have to be in a shelter with my children. We're not going to have anything of our own. If she goes to a family member, he usually threatens the family members, so she doesn't want to put them at any kind of risk. So I think that we can't be too hard on the ladies who are in this abusive relationships, because they do want to get out, but they just don't know how to get out. And that's why we try to teach them also, or direct them to where they can learn safety planning.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Because
they
safety
don't feel
planning
safe.
is so important. And guess what? You can't just go in the house and say, I'm leaving you today. You will not make it out alive. Because if he knows that he's going to lose power and control over you, he will kill you.
Yeah, I've been told if I can't have you, somebody else will.
And that's real.
It's not that easy. When you fight back, some people say, well, I fought back and I fight back and I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. Okay, you can make him even more angry until he will try to kill you today. This is really serious, and that's why we want you to learn the warning signs so that you don't get in the relationship, because it's not as easy to get out as it is to get in. And so we want you to get it from the beginning so that when you see those red flags, you can say, this relationship is not for me, and I'm out.
The day that I told my husband to leave was the day that he went and got his shotgun. It was a rifle. It was a rifle with hollow point bullets, and shot it at point blank range at me with my kids in the other room. And it's only by the grace of God that I am here today, and my children are here today, because I told him to leave.
That's real.
I think when I left, I packed my bags about 2 weeks before.
So you're
Planning, yeah.
And I wanted to also say that when I heard you saying that, you got tired of it when you were officer, I was one of those young ladies where the cops would come out and they would say, what happened? I called the cops, and I would say, he just was a little mad, just a little upset. I started the argument. I would blame it all on myself. And if I had to write a statement, I would kind of think in my head, trying to make the statement so to kind of lean towards maybe I provoked it or something, or he didn't really hit me. And they can't say how they hit you. You can't say they push you up against it, whatever. So I didn't want him to get in trouble. It wasn't even about me. I didn't care about me at all. I didn't mean anything. I wasn't important. It was about him.
I know that
That's
now.
all I
Back
worried
then,
about.
I didn't know that. I just got irritated. But now, fear because I was a police officer. I was ashamed. I didn't want another officer to come to my house. When he punched me in my jaw and almost broke it, I was at the hospital. They wanted to call the police, and I said no, because in that district was where I was. And I didn't want them to come in and see me.
No, we go ahead, I'll tell you. We know, we listen to you. These
I
guys.
didn't want another officer to come in and see me there, so I was ashamed. But I do understand now what I didn't understand then.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think some people out in the community, they don't understand, and they'll say something like, "You're so stupid," or "You're leaving your family. Why won't you leave them?"
Yeah.
And so that's what I cringe when I hear that, because you don't know really what she's going through inside in that home. And sometimes even the children get older and the children blame their mother and they are upset with the mother and
Yes, they do.
they don't like her and all. But sometimes she was just taking one for the team because
Absolutely,
she
trying to
did
protect
not
them.
want
Yes.
the father to come after them, so she would take that beating.
But even the children who are in home, my children are grown adults. And when I was going through this, they were angry with me. But they didn't understand that I was trying to protect them because I knew that he knew the kind of relationship, the bond that we had. And he would have tried to get rid of them in order to keep me.
Had you ever been in an abusive relationship like prior?
No.
It's like, yeah, that's kind of deep. I never heard someone's story, but it was like later, and like, yeah, most of the time it's like
Girl,
around your life, yeah, before you.
But I witnessed my mother when I was a little girl
So it was
being
familiar.
abused.
Yeah.
So my sister was in an abusive relationship. My brother was an abusive person, and here I am, the last of the bunch, in an abusive, and I would have never thought that it would have happened to me. But it's a generational thing. I really believe that it is.
It is.
The let me see. I don't know if I can touch on this. Hopefully he listens. I was told that. I think somebody posted something about where so that if was it you, Michelle? Somebody posted about if your parents are abusive and the children watch it, you gotta be careful because the children might grow up and be abusive.
Yeah.
And with that, I my personal opinion, I agree with it, but it can be stopped if you pay attention to it.
Yes,
Because
that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I mean,
I'm
yeah, like
sorry.
Camilla said about her son.
Yeah, I had to visit him and it was on his 21st birthday. And he lives in Atlanta, and I wanted to surprise him. So he turned 21. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. I hadn't been able to get down there. So I said, I'm gonna surprise him. Got my ticket and everything. Gonna go visit him. Like surprise, but surprise to me. My son was in prison when on his 21st birthday. So like a couple days before his birthday, I was down there, and had to find a way to get to prison and everything. It was crazy. And then once I get there, I'm behind a plexiglass. So I hadn't seen my son in like almost 2 years, and I had to visit him on his 21st birthday behind a plexiglass for domestic violence. And I felt so bad. And he cried, and I'll never forget that moment. Fluorescent orange suit behind a plexiglass. And he turned like red. Like he didn't know I was there. It was a surprise. So he thought he was coming to see my brother was coming to see him. So he coming out there, they got him on handcuffs, and he come in the room and he just bust out laughing. I'm not bust out laughing, crying, and turned around. And he's like, "Mom, I'm so sorry." I said, and I'm a crybaby. But at that moment, I was like strong. And I told him, I said, "Get together." And I told him, he needs to get some help. You're in here, get your help. And I said, I'm here for you. I'm not going to turn my back on you. I'm not ashamed of you. I said, I'm here. So
That's what I was saying. As far as with that is one of my parents was abusive, and they was abusive like when they was a teenager, and it's like certain things took place, and then my mom would tell me the stories because it didn't last long. Because my grandmother was crazy. My grandmother shut it down, like grabbed the gun, came to the door. You do this, I'm doing that, and that was the end of that. So that wiped that out. And years after I met him, and I happened to go to the house to visit and witness that situation. And I got in between and said, Joe, you know what? You hit her, you're gonna have to hit me. Now I just met his friend, but I seen where it was going, and I was just like, it was a wake up call for me. Like, yo, this is like crazy. I mean, you see this type of stuff on TV. But we're gonna take a quick break to DJ Manny Strong's mix. I want to send a shout out to Miss Smith. DJ Manny Strong texted me and told me that she's listening, and he wanted me to tell a quick story about his son's mother, which is a childhood friend of me and Divine from a Baptist school. Her husband killed her, so he ended up raising his son. So I wasn't gonna touch on it, but he texted me said it's alright. So yeah, so he's that was like Deborah. You know. So that it's real, like you said. You keep saying it's real. It really is real. And my opinion is that I don't think that's enough attention. It's not enough attention to domestic abuse.
It wasn't,
No,
but we are
I think it
changing.
is now. I mean, yeah, y'all want to change that. That's why I'm glad to have y'all here. That's why I'm definitely, and y'all are always welcome back. If something's going on, y'all want to get with me, we'll schedule another show. I mean, that's, always an open forum for y'all to come and talk. But I mean, to me, it seems like, and I'm only 42, but it used to be a big thing. Like, you used to always hear about it. But now, I don't hear about it unless I, pay attention to people like you talking about it, and post it and stuff like that. And I don't think that it's fair that October is the month of domestic abuse, but then it's overshadowed by breast cancer, which they're both important.
Yes.
And I think they should get the same
I think the
amount of
domestic
attention.
violence should be changed in November.
Yeah.
I've always had an issue with the fact that we have to share with breast cancer. Because breast cancer is a powerful situation too.
Yeah.
And they're more organized and it's all over and it's just overpowered. And I've been complaining at my church because they do a whole lot for breast cancer. We don't have a day for domestic violence. We have a day for breast cancer. Why don't we have a day for domestic
So they
violence?
have a walk though, right, for domestic.
There was a walk on October the 3rd, actually.
They just came back because the one that they used to have that was shut down when Leanne Washington was in charge of it. So now Kenyatta Williams has taken over and started it. This was the first one this year.
Please, next year, give me a notice, open conversation to be there, with cameras and take pictures on social media and all that things to do. Because, like I said, it wouldn't have been brought to me unless Camilla or Michelle brought it to me to have the show. And I was like, you know what, all right, let's make it happen. And it's funny because I think you reached out to me and told me about it. Then maybe I saw a post 2 days later on her page, and I said, you know what, it must be meant for me to really pay attention to it.
We had a conference on October the 3rd, but we're actually putting together another one for March,
Okay,
the first week in March, so we will let you know about that.
please do. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, we have to break the silence. Dirty little secret.
I'm gonna take a quick break and come back, and then we just gonna talk the rest of the show. I want to get in DJ Manny Strong's mix here on Sadior Presents Open Conversation. But before we go, real quick, Divine, let me get his number out because I'm gonna get us out the rest of the show. The Philadelphia Domestic Violence Hotline is 866-723-3014. Quick question with this: say if I know somebody that's getting abused, can I call this hotline and report it, or the person has to call?
The person has to call on their own.
Okay.
But it's better because they can talk and just get questions answered because sometimes they're too embarrassed. So it's anonymous. They don't have to give their information.
So it's anonymous. You don't have to worry about people coming to your house. All that type
No.
of stuff.
No.
Gives you an outlet to talk to somebody.
And sometimes they just want someone to listen.
But they're like Women Against Abuse, and I think there's another one that has websites that they can go to and friends of people that know. So they have, if you go to the website for Women Against Abuse, like for example, they'll say if you know someone who you think is, and they'll give you tips of what to say or what to do in that manner. But no, the hotline is just for
Okay. When we come back from this DJ Manny Strong mix, I want to go through, I think you said the emergency plan, something on how to get, what is it called, the safety plan. I would like to go through maybe a couple steps just to give the listeners and the viewers that's watching on Ustream an idea of how to go about getting out of this situation. Again, if you want to call into the station, it's 267-368-5328. We'll be right back after this DJ Manny Strong mix.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. So.
I turn the music up loud so you don't want to talk.
Yeah.
Used to
So we can't, yeah, we playing it over. We can't tell them to be playing it. We can't tell them that the whole right, because you don't know what the users are
Good point.
listening to. So that's why they have to call into this number, and when they call into that number, they will direct them to the different places where it's counseling sessions and all kinds of things. They have to help. You know, there's so much out there now than it was before. So that's why we tell them to call that number.
Okay, cool.
And it's 24 hours. 24 hours.
A couple things I wanted to talk about as far as entertainment, as far as how they have different things on TV, as far as this different groups I have. Do you think that the entertainment, equipment that's in face right now,
Kind of glorified.
yeah.
I do, and I think that,
Don't tell me that.
oh,
Come back. Because it ain't gonna be authentic like you tell me.
it drives me crazy every
But
time
no,
I
I just,
see.
yeah, I just like
something
to,
in my eyes.
give you a little bit of, you know, to think about right now.
I can't even watch it. I don't watch it. Even when the movie, when it came out, it was hard for me to watch that because I had to, we wrote songs together, we sang together. Okay, and to go through that, it took me a while to watch that. But it was like I was trying to live stuff. That's the mother burning dance. Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, yeah.
Let me tell you, I went to depression. And when I tell you, I went into, that's the book, right? Let me tell you how I was gonna stay on like 3 days.
My mother said, I called my mother crying. My mother said, oh, why? She screamed at me, why are you reading it?
It's crazy.
Everything you feel that way.
Well, my parents were engineers. So I could all I could do, and when I say, literally, I felt like they did the movie about me. You talking about when I had my daughter when she was at downstairs, and she had that baby, my mother told me my baby was born. I mean, it was just like, I couldn't do it. I was in the bed for 3 days, I was just crying. Just that much of an effect on you, on the long term thing. So,
I just have innocence that kind of coming out because of what it is. When I was here saying all the music down about
Because we went through a lot of things.
yes, right. That's how you get it's deliverance and it's healing.
exactly. That's what it is.
Hurt people. There's a book out called Hurt People. That's one. Hurt people. Yeah. I actually had to go in. Like I used to stay on the phone with her for hours. When I was guilty.
The center.
But she said crying like, oh, getting better. No, whatever.
This is a big problem in our community. Accepting therapy because you're crazy with therapy. No, you need help to get over the trauma that's in your life because these kids have been traumatized. We've been traumatized, and we just it'll go away. It won't go away until you go through the healing process. And you came out there therapy since 2000. And I just stopped because I felt my new stuff. So my children get it because they keep popping up that were affecting me.
because I was like jumpy. I was having a lot of issues that I didn't know what it was. And it's been from when I was there. That was first.
It's like when you get to your it's like, you know you are. I feel like I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Like, I just go from the door when you feel bad.
Everybody else look like this.
I'm trying to work on
Look at
it.
the
You
side.
know,
It's gonna look like that. Yours gotta be. You gave me the logo. So when I send it to the French side.
No, I'm serious. I don't know what you need to fix that. I mean, after I was that marriage of mine, I refused to deal with anybody for years. And I wasn't actually, my goal was never to deal with it again. But eventually, after about 4 years, I let somebody get my life. But it's like, I believe you can heal. You can't heal if you got another, you get something into another relationship. That's not good. Like, it's 4 years. It's a situation because of a situation. And going to a worse, it was almost the same exact situation. Jump out for 5, 10, you get 5. Okay. So you didn't learn from that. No. So the joint you did.
I apologize for the heat.
Oh, that's okay.
It ain't you. It's hot. It's hard to do, you know. I'm hot. So look, no, that ain't stuff.
No, I am. We got after. So I
You ready?
right here.
Alright, we ready to come back. Put this rock on
Usually I be the one that
comment on the lead.
first. That's why I said jacket on. Sitting on song.
And we are back. You're tuned in. This is Over Conversation Show here on Heat 100 Radio. Oh, 7:32. This is a good show. I gotta come back.
Yes.
You gotta come back. If you want to call in, again, the number is 267-368-5328. Earlier, before we went to the music break, the safety plan. To find out the safety plans, just in case we have some of y'all nuts out there listening to the show, we need y'all to give a call, ladies, to 866, or men, because I know some people, I know I was mentally abused, so I ain't getting into that. 866-723-3014. Speaking of that, let me ask y'all opinion on that, as far as men being abused. Because I know everybody probably gonna hit me up. Y'all talk about women, what about me? You know,
No, we talked to someone, and he shared with us
Mhm.
that he was, verbally abused. He wasn't physically abused, but he was a man of God, so he respected God enough that he wasn't going to hear it back, and the fact that he was a man,
Right.
that he wasn't going to hear it back. So he just allowed her to abuse him verbally until he couldn't take it anymore, and then he wanted her in their relationship. But there are plenty men.
Right.
Well, I know that when my kids were coming up, and I used to always instill in my sons, never, I don't want you to ever hit a woman. I don't want you to ever hit a woman. And it never occurred to me to instill that in my daughters. And a couple of my daughters were. They're better now. They went to counseling, but yeah, they and when I asked them, I'm like, why? And they were like, we never wanted to be like you. We because I wasn't a fighter back like everyone else. I never liked violence, so they was like, never was gonna be like you. Never gonna let anybody just do that to me.
So let me ask you. I know it's a book we were talking when we went to break. It's called Hurt People, Hurt People. So check that out when you get opportunity, listeners and people that's viewing Ustream. Check that book out. And I definitely want to touch on the many faces of domestic abuse by our special guest, one of our special guests, Holly Jennings, which is about everybody in the room. So all y'all, is incorporated in this story. What do you want people to get from this book? That's a question for everybody. We're gonna go around the room. I'll start with you.
Just to bring about awareness, because like I said, I never thought, and I think that anybody that finds himself in a domestic abusive relationship, you never think that it can happen to you. It doesn't have any color. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what job you have. It doesn't care, because there are men out here who obviously need help. And until they get the help, they're going to continue to run into women like us. And we're going to continue to fall victim to them. So if we can get the signs, if we can know how to spot them before we start to date them, or I mean, there are so many warning signs that can tell you when you meet them whether or not you should just continue to go by them. Because and so when I talk to these women, and we all share our stories in the book, if you read the stories, they will give you a glimpse of some of the signs to look out for. So that's basically it.
Before we go, where can they get this book?
I have a website. It's called theManyFacesOfLife.net.
Many faces of Thanks.
Just to know your worth, to never settle, to don't believe you can change anyone, and to love yourself. There's not enough love in this world, and I mean love, not lust, not everybody doesn't know what love is. It's a word that's said a lot, but the true meaning is not there. In the Bible, 2 Corinthians says what love is. And love is kind, love is patient, love is all. Check it out. That's what love is. And love yourself. Don't put any man above yourself. And if you're in a relationship, an abusive relationship right now, and you think that you're going to stay in it because of the kids, I want you to consider something. I shared this with someone who was in an abusive relationship, and she told me, well, you know, I was going to stay in it because, my child. And I'm like, I want you to think of this. You have a son. Your son is knows about this. I know you think he doesn't, but he knows. And what's going to happen is one day he's going to get big enough to say, I'm not going to have this anymore. And he's going to confront your abuser. And what's going to happen is either he's going to kill him or the other one's going to kill your son. Either way, it's not going to be a good situation. So all this staying just for the sake of the kids, I don't think so. Because even if it doesn't go to that level, these kids are being traumatized by these situations. And I know you think that they don't know, but they do know.
I'd just like to say that just know that you don't have to be ashamed. You know, you can tell somebody, you can get some help. The help is available, and you can get out and lead a productive life, and you can find love again. You can be happy, but the choice is yours. We all have a choice, and that's all I want to put out there. You have a choice. You want to live? Think of yourself first. If you were on an airplane and you had your child with you, the first thing they'll tell you, put that mask on yourself and then your child, because if you don't and you put it on her, you could die and she could die before you could even help her. So you got to help yourself first. Get help, get out, be safe and live.
I want people to get from this book that you are worthy of love, that you don't deserve this type of treatment, and that's from anybody. That's from man, woman, or child. That's from your boss. That's from your pastor. That's from your coworker, your neighbor, the owner of the company that you frequent. You don't deserve bad treatment from anyone, and I just want people to get their voice back. It's important to